You're on.
Greetings. Welcome to the first live stream of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of New Bern. We're going to be doing the service here. We have about 10-15 people here, basically socially distanced appropriately. And we're glad that you're watching from home. The theme of today's service is wisdom from the Jewish, Christian, and Islamic tradition, the Abrahamic faith. And our prelude is a song called "You Are the Lord My God," about the first commandment. You are the Lord my God. I have none before you. People try to tell me that you don't exist, but you are the Lord my God. Moses climbed the mountain, saw you face to face. He started to tremble from amazing grace. He asked what your name was, he just couldn't see. You're the great I am that causes things to be, 'cause you are the Lord my God. I have none before you. People try to tell me that you don't exist, but you are the Lord my God. Jesus told us all that we should love you. One way we can do that is love our neighbor too. I'm gonna love you with heart and soul and mind. I'm looking for you, I'll seek and I will find. You are the Lord my God. I have none before you. People try to tell me that you don't exist, but you are the Lord my God. Some say that you're Buddha, some say that you're dead. Some say that you're Allah or Vishnu instead. Some say that you're Baptist or Unitarian. Some say that you're Catholic, but they're all wrong, 'cause you are the Lord and your God. We cannot control you. We cannot define you or put you in a box, 'cause you are the Lord and your God. Yeah.
Thank you, Charlie. Good morning. Welcome. I'm Dave McCracken, and I'm pleased to be your service leader on what Charlie has said, this historic occasion when we're live streaming to the rest of our fellowship. I'm going to dispense with some of our normal formalities, but as I look around the room today, I can only see one guest. And I wonder if we could have our guest stand and bark her name. Or her owner could stand and not bark her name.
You want to help?
And that is Chloe, the black, partly Labrador, welcoming all of us. I'd like to say that after the service we'd all get together for coffee, but we've decided that we're going to dispense with the food and the coffee in our services. So all who are at home, you can enjoy a coffee right now as you listen to this service, which is streaming to us. So enjoy, everyone. We light this chalice not simply in the hope that we will be led to wisdom, but for spark that arises when wisdom is found. We pray for wisdom that makes us new, We long for the wisdom that reveals the connections between us. We hunger for the wisdom that heals our hearts. May the light we now kindle together lead us back to those wiser, safer, and calmer times.
Going to do a time for all ages, and this is something that we don't necessarily need. Only one person up here. We have one child, but this is called Time for All Ages, so all ages that want to can come get in camera view, or you can just let me stand here. Okay, and if you come up front, you might be able to be seen in the camera if you're on this side of the chair. And then we have our dog. This is time for all species as well.
Hey, Charlie.
Okay, so I'm standing on one leg. And, you know, and a kid, I could do this for a long time. But as I get older, the inner ear goes and you kind of fall a lot. Now, there was this one guy. He was interested in becoming a Jew. And he was approaching rabbis. He went to a rabbi, an older rabbi named Shammai, and he said, I will convert to Judaism if you tell me the whole Torah while standing on one leg. Because you got, and so, yeah, that's hard to do. The Torah's 5 books, it's impossible to tell the whole Torah on one leg. So that first rabbi had a staff, and he just hit the guy and sent him on his way. But then I approached another rabbi named Hillel, who was alive around the same time as Jesus. And they asked him, can you do the Torah standing on one leg? And he balanced, and then he said, what is hateful to you, do not do to anybody else. He was able to do it for that long. And he said, all the rest is commentary. Go and learn. And that is the golden rule stated, that do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Is stated in Judaism and Christianity and in various forms all over the world in a lot of different religions. And so a lot of times we think that religion is about what you say you believe. But when it comes down to it, is do you believe enough to actually love other people and treat them kindly? And so that's the lesson for today.
Thank you.
Thank you. The anthem for today is a song called Mercy. It's a song that is in Aramaic, or in Arabic, in Latin, and in Hebrew, and in English. And it's a call for mercy among the 3 religions. Bismillah ar-Rahman, Kiri leison, Bismillah ar-Rahman, Kiri leison. Allah have mercy, Lord have mercy. up to him?
Yeah, that's okay. The word wisdom is mentioned 222 times in the Hebrew Bible and was regarded as one of the highest virtues, along with kindness and justice, among the Israelites. In today's presentation, Reverend Charlie will talk about biblical wisdom. So I've turned to a quotation from Reinhold Niebuhr, who was a favorite of mine when I was in university in our political science courses. And he was a leading liberal Christian minister, author, and advocate for social justice and civil rights in the 50s and 60s. I'm sure many of you are aware of this short prayer. God, give us grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things that should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. This is the original version, what has come to be known in many variations as the Serenity Prayer, and can be found in millions of Americans' homes in every medium imaginable. Posters, refrigerator magnets, placemats, even tattoos. Much of this popularity is owed to Alcoholics Anonymous, which adopted it as its official meditation. Despite its name, it's not a prayer for serenity alone and could just as well be called the Courage Prayer or the Wisdom Prayer. It is a call for all of us to accept responsibility for the choices we make in our own lives.
Please turn your hymnals to selection number 281, to O God, our help in ages past. Rise as you are able, and body or spirit. Sing so you can be heard around the world. Oh God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home. Before the hills in order stood, earth received the rain. From everlasting thou art God, to endless years the same. 1,000 ages in thy sight are like an evening dawn, short as the watch that ends the night before the rising sun. Time like an ever-rolling stream bears all of us away. We fly forgotten as a dream dies at the opening day. Oh God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come. Be thou our God while troubles last, and our eternal home. At this time, each week we do our joys and sorrows, and we ask those who have a joy or sorrow to come forward and take a stone and place it in our receptacle, our water, and then either speak your joy or sorrow or return to your seat.
Ed Toth. I don't know if you can call this a joy or sorrow. I think it's more of hope. I think as we go forward with this corona virus kind of into the unknown, I think it's going to be so important that all of us as a congregation and as a society really hold, instead of pulling in, but actually reaching out to each other.
Hi, I'm Trish. These are thoughts for my closest friends I've ever had who are hunkered down in Rovereto, Trentino in Italy. And I wish them well. They're surrounded by it, and it's scary times. I too will be commuting up to Oxford, North Carolina to sit for my grandchild because of the school's closed, so it's going to be tough, back and forth. We'll get through it. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Florence, and I want to say a couple things. One is Margaret is on lockdown in the Bayview in the nursing home, but she's safe. And I know, I haven't talked to her, but I know she'll be wanting to get back as soon as possible. Also, in good voice, John Van Dyke, I don't know how many know him, but he's going home today from the hospital after a month's stay. And he's happy, and I'm glad for him. And I forget the other, I'm sorry, but anyway, enjoy. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sam Love. I've been monitoring this feed. It's slightly delayed, but there are 21 people watching this, which is great. And some people are putting in great comments. There's some names showing up that I don't know. I don't know if they're like seeing this on the web and decided to tune in or what. But I would just like to thank Mike and Charlie. And we're really lucky to have somebody with the technical skills of Mike Sagasser, because I think without him, we couldn't have done this. And so, thank you again, Mike.
Do remember, I do want to share this. So what I want to share is that in 1918, there was a pandemic. And I think we're very fortunate that we have these abilities to communicate with each other, even if we stay home. The telephone, television, and the computer. So I'm very grateful for this. Thank you.
He didn't like the three kids. She didn't like the three kids he had. They all moved to High Point to relatives. One of them had a dairy. My father down in Pamlico County majored in dairy science at State, and he met her on the milk line at Clover Brand Dairies in High Point. So, whatever.
I drop a stone for all those who are suffering and are concerned about loved ones, and yet another stone for all those joys and sorrows that Ron expressed. And let's hold them together in a community of silent meditation. May we bless and be blessed.
It's time for our morning offertory, and as a member of the Finance Committee, I'm constantly amazed and overwhelmed by the generosity of our membership and friends. And these gifts and contributions, whether they come from our regular pledges or from the offering plate, not only pay the bills, but they enable UUFNB to fulfill its mission. So thank you for all that you do. And if you're watching us streaming or are going to be staying at home like many of us are, at times of Sunday, think of UUFNB and your pledges, and because we still do have a lot of bills to pay. The offering will now commence.
And for those of you at home and around the world, if you want to mail in a check, it's 308 Meadows Street, New Bern, North Carolina, 28560. I am now officially a televangelist. I think we need to remember that, well, we're worried about people breathing on us. Every breath we take is still precious. Every breath I take is a blessing. Every move I make is a joy. Every breath I take is a blessing that God gave me to enjoy. Blessed breath, breathe on me, breath of God, set me free. Blessed breath, breathe on me, breath of God, set me free. Every day I wait is a blessing. Every step I take is a gift. Every breath I take is a blessing. I'm so happy that I live. Blessed breath, breathe on me, breath of God, set me free. Oh, blessed breath, breathe on me, breath of God, set me free. All the bread I bake is a blessing. All the wine I drink makes me smile. Every breath I take is a blessing, 'cause I know that I'm the child. Oh, blessed breath, breathe on me, breath of God, set me free. Oh, blessed breath, breathe on me, breath of God, set me free. Blessed breath, breathe on me, breath of God, set me free. Oh, blessed breath, breathe on me, breath of God, set me free.
I lost my script.
We are grateful for these gifts and we endeavor to use them wisely. The 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism were adopted in 1985. They did not come down from heaven. They evolved through a long history of seekers of religious freedom. Last week I noted how these principles are congruent with some aspects of Eastern religions. But our tradition actually arose out of the Abrahamic tradition. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all trace their faith back to Abraham, a man who responded to his understanding of God to move from what is now Iraq to what is now called Israel. Israel was named after Abraham's son Jacob. Jacob was given the nickname Israel after he wrestled with God. We carry on that tradition by wrestling with the very notion of God in our Unitarian Universalist congregations around the country. We strive to find the ultimate purpose of life and live according to these principles. Our first principle is the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all affirm that humanity is godlike. In the first chapter of Genesis, God said, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness." In Christianity, in Corinthians, Paul writes, "Do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you? For God's temple is holy, and that temple you are." And in the Quran, in the 15th surah, and the 29th verse, "I have breathed into man my spirit." These passages suggest that if our body and our breath are holy, then we ourselves must also be holy. The humanist tradition takes us a step further. It says our worth is not derived from God, it is inherent in our humanity. But the theists will counter-argue, as we often do have arguments about these things in UU churches, friendly arguments, that inherent means inherited, as if from God. So whether God created us or we created God, this principle encourages us to treat every human being as sacred. The second principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. This is where the golden rule comes in play. In Islam, it's stated, "Not one of you is a believer until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself." In Leviticus 19, in the Hebrew scripture, it says, "You shall love your neighbor as yourself." And the book of Matthew reports Jesus as saying, "Whatever you wish that men would do to you, do so to them." And also in Matthew, someone came up to Jesus and said, "Teacher, what is the great commandment in the law?" And Jesus said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the laws and the prophets." And the construction of this is that we're supposed to love God with all. So then what's left over to love our neighbor, unless our neighbor is a manifestation of the holy? This says that loving one's neighbor is like loving God. Whether or not any of us perceive God, we can perceive our neighbor and we can love them. The third principle is acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth. In Leviticus, but the stranger that dwells with you shall be unto you as one born among you, and you shall love him as thyself. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. And in the Quran, in the 60th Surah, 7th verse, it may be that God will ordain love between you and those whom you hold as enemies. For God has power over all things, and God is oft forgiving and most merciful. And Paul, in his letter to the Hebrews, writes, do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unaware. And Jesus in Matthew says, you have heard it said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be children of the Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the just and the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward have you? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you salute only your brethren, what are you doing more than others? Do not even the Gentiles do the same? You therefore must be whole, as your heavenly Father is whole. This scripture hints at the universalism of our tradition, that the rain falls on the just and the unjust, and the sun shines on everyone. And therefore our love should not be for in-groups and out-groups, but for everyone, even those people who are very difficult to love. Our fourth principle is to affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. The book of James, be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who observes his natural face in a mirror. For he observes himself and then goes away and once forgets what he was like. In the Judaism and the Mishnah, Abbot, not study is the chief thing, but action. And whoso multiplies words multiplies sin. It's not what you say, it's what you do. The search for knowledge is an obligation laid on every Muslim. And so that sense that we are to search for knowledge, and then once finding that knowledge, we fulfill our obligations by living in that knowledge. The fifth principle is the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and society at large. This is where the Abrahamic tradition has quite a big problem. The scriptural support for democracy is very thin indeed. Some point to Deuteronomy, choose for your tribes wise, understanding, and experienced men, and I, God, will appoint them as your heads. So there's a sense of some human agency. When Judas committed suicide, they had a position open on the board of the 12 disciples. And the book of Acts describes that they gathered a group of 20 people. And out of those 120 people, they had discussions and 2 nominees were put forward. And they cast their lot, and the lot fell on Matthias. And he was numbered with the 11 apostles. So there's some sort of democracy. There was a consensus on who it was, but casting one's lot is not like casting a vote. It's essentially a coin flip. And in the Quran, those who hearken to their Lord and establish regular prayer, who conduct their affairs by mutual consultation, who spend out of what we bestow to them for sustenance. That sense of mutual consultation is in one verse in the Quran. And those who are struggling for democratic reform in the Islamic world take this verse and run with it and push it as hard as they can, with varied amounts of success depending on where they live. So these passages talk of choice and consultation, but more often the emphasis is placed on obedience. In Titus, it says, remind them to be submissive to rulers and authorities and to be obedient, to be ready for every good work. But occasionally, one is given permission to disobey the law. An example from Christianity, but there are examples in Judaism and Islam as well. We must obey God rather than man, from Acts 5. But even that is an authoritarian impulse. It's not talking about exercising your free right as a human. It's just saying, I'm serving another authority. Each of these systems is inherently authoritarian. Democracy seems to have risen in the West from secular humanists and the paganism of the Greek and Roman. It has very little support from the religions of this region. The sixth principle is the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. In Isaiah 2:4, he will judge between the nations and settle disputes for many people. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore. And Jesus, at the time of his arrest, said, all who take the sword will perish by the sword. And in Islam, Surah 5:32 in the Quran, if anyone kills a person, it would be as if he killed all mankind. Each of these scriptures inspire their followers to seek a world of peace. But each of these traditions also have scriptures that contradict. In Psalm 144, blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. Matthew 10:34 has Jesus saying, do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. And in the Quran, in the second surah, fight the cause of Allah, those who fight you, but do not transgress limits, for Allah loveth not transgressors. And slay them wherever you catch them, and turn them out from where they have turned you out. For tumult and oppression are worse than slaughter. But fight them, not at the sacred mosque, unless they first fight you there. But if they fight you, slay them. Such is the reward for those who suppress faith. None of these religions are pacifists, although they may have sects in various parts of the world that are. But it's difficult to honestly call any of the Abrahamic religions a religion of peace, especially when we look at all the history of wars and crusades fought in the name of one God or another. The seventh principle is respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. in Judaism, the Psalm 24. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. In Islam, in the Quran, the 56th surah, Allah is talking and using the royal we. Have you considered the soil you till? Do yourselves sow it, or are we the sowers? Have you considered the water you drink? Did you send it down from the clouds, or did we send it? Did we will, we would make it bitter. So why are you not thankful? Have you considered the fire you kindle? Did you make the timber grow, or did we make it? We ourselves made it for a reminder and are a boon to desert dwellers. It's reported that St. Francis of Assisi gave the following sermons to the birds. And I send this out to any bird watchers who might be watching us. My sweet little sisters, birds of the sky, you are bound to heaven, to God your Creator. In every beat of your wings and every note of your songs, praise him. He has given you the greatest gifts, the freedom of the air. You neither sow nor reap, yet God provides for you the most delicious food, rivers and lakes to quench your thirst, mountains and valleys for your home, and trees to build your nest, and the most beautiful clothing, a change of feathers with every season. Clearly, our Creator loves you dearly, since he gives you gifts so abundantly. So please beware, my little sisters, of the sin of ingratitude, and always sing praise to God. This sermon is also for us as humans to hear. The earth is the source of all our blessings. In this time of a coronavirus, COVID-19 outbreak, earth also seems to bring a curse. But we must step back from fear, knowing that all of us will die eventually, but also that all of us can prolong the quantity and quality of our lives. We're faced with this paradox. And we must join in the spirit of cooperation while working to keep our bodies separate. Social distancing is a cooperative practice that will limit suffering and death. That if you are in an age group that is not likely to have a fatal reaction to this virus, you're called on to remember that you are connected to all those who may be at higher risk. And watch your own behavior and walk through this world gently. We live not only for ourselves, but for everyone on the planet. Let us not live in fear, but let us be aware. Do not let fear make us forget all the blessings we have, including our ability to be in community, even when we are not together. Many people have wisely stayed home from this service, but we should call those people on the phone. We should check in with them to see if they are okay. We could do something as old-fashioned is write a note, although our hands might touch that note. Might have to spray it with sanitizer before we send it. But we have ways of letting people know we care, both near and far. And we will have people who need our help with child care, with elder care, all sorts of things as our society slows down. But we can also use this opportunity of slowing down to meet together in small groups, to take time for each other. If you're forced to be away from work, don't sit at the TV and soak in all the fear. Invite someone over and have a conversation. Go walk in the woods where it's beautiful. Stay connected to the interdependent web of which we are all a part. May we bless and be blessed. Our next hymn, are we at the hymn? I've lost the order of service. We are at the hymn. It will be number 16, "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple." That's not written in your order of service, but I got a email from the UUA about what hymns are allowed to be streamed and recorded, and that one violated a copyright, but this old folk tune is fine for us to sing robustly. And since it's short, we can sing it twice. Please rise as you are able and join. "'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come round where we ought to be. When we find ourselves in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. Turn, turn, will be our delight, till by turning, turning we come round right. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. Turn, turn, will be our delight, till by turning, turning we come round right.
Thank you, Reverend Charlie. Wonderful. As we extinguish this flame, let us consider what we have heard today, and may our wisdom show itself in compassion and understanding and caring. And may the fruits of the Spirit be apparent in our lives. In my closing words, I'd like to say that during the last Sunday and in today's message from Reverend Charlie, we have learned about words, passages on wisdom taken from many of the world's major and minor religions and how they relate to our 7 principles. But during these crazy and challenging and difficult to comprehend times, I searched around and said, is there another type of wisdom? And yes, there is. According to author and Buddhist teacher Wes Nisker, there is another kind of wisdom loose in the world. This wisdom is difficult to codify or categorize, and it refuses to be institutionalized. It's called crazy wisdom, and it is both crazy and wise. It's often ironic and also insightful. Crazy wisdom is the wisdom of the saint, the Zen master, the poet, the mad scientist, the clown, the jester, the trickster, and the holy fool. Crazy wisdom sees that we live in a world of many illusions, that the emperor has no clothes, that our country's leaders often do not tell the truth, and that much of human belief and behavior is ritualized nonsense. Crazy wisdom loves paradox and puns and pie fights and laughing at politicians. Crazy wisdom flips the world upside down and backwards until everything becomes perfectly clear. We hope it can help us overcome incredible challenges and fear. We can find crazy wisdom flowing through all of human history, from the Taoists to the Dadaists, from the Book of Ecclesiastes to Mark Twain's Letter from the Earth. It flows out of the dervish whirls of Rumi's poetry and the profound nonsense of Samuel Beckett's confused characters. Crazy wisdom thrives in Native American mythology and teachings. It lurks between the unruly hair of Albert Einstein and between the bushy eyebrows of Groucho Marx, and occasionally from the crazed ranting of Lily Tomlin's Bag Lady. Crazy wisdom rises again and again to expose us to ourselves and to remind us of the strange, impossible nature of our enterprise here on earth, life. So today, as we face uncertainty and unimaginable changes to our lives, we must continue to move on and seek the wisdom that most appeals to us, be it profound and deeply religious, spiritual, philosophical, or crazy and wise. Peace. Namaste.
Namaste.
Shalom. Salam.